Inside the Deck is brought to you by CoolStuffInc.com, sellers of Magic the Gathering and many other card and board games. GatheringMagic.com, #1 resource on Magic the Gathering, strategy, and culture.
My name is Andrew Shrout, and I played Blue-White-Red Control at Pro Tour Dragon's Maze. It's a Return to Ravnica block constructed deck, so I was limited to cards only from Return to Ravnica, Gatecrash, and Dragon's Maze. The plan of this deck is to cast large Sphinx's Revelations and draw buckets and buckets of cards, and then take control of the game with Aetherling and Supreme Verdict. When I was trying to decide what deck to play for this Pro Tour, I was looking at the Magic Online daily events, and I saw a lot of Esper Control, which turned out to be the most popular deck here. And I decided that I wanted to be on primarily the same game plan as that deck, but I wanted access to some slightly better removal spells, more flexible cards like Izzet Charm, and most importantly, I wanted access to the card Counterflux, because I knew that the other control decks would also be trying to win with Aetherling, and I wanted to absolutely for sure stop Aetherling. The goal of this deck is essentially just to survive. You're going to spend your early turns playing removal spells and cycling with Prophetic Prisms and Azorius Charms to draw further into your deck. When you get to your 4th land, you will either play Supreme Verdict and clear the board, or play Jace and start taking control of the game by drawing extra cards. Eventually you'll get a lot of land in play. You'll start casting Sphinx's Revelations for 5 and 6 cards at a time, and once you have a good solid lead in terms of cards in hand against your opponent, then you will play Aetherling and win the game with that. This deck wins with Aetherling. Aetherling is the most resilient win condition in the format. It is nearly impossible to kill once it resolves. In addition to that, I have 1 Assemble the Legion as a backup win condition in case my Aetherlings get Slaughter Gamesed. This deck's mana base is it's built on the Shocklands primarily. I'm playing all 12 of the available Shocklands in blue, white, and red. So it's 4 Hallowed Fountain, 4 Steam Vents, and 4 Sacred Foundry. And I have some pretty heavy color requirements in all 3 of those colors, so I'm also playing 5 Guildgates. In addition to that, I have 3 Prophetic Prisms. Those help in the main deck. They're actually there to turn on the Rakdos returns in my sideboard. So there's a 4th color out of the sideboard. My sideboard has essentially 2 separate packages. For control mirrors, I have 3 Rakdos returns, which I can play off of my Prophetic Prisms, and I have an additional Assemble the Legion. Those are just the big game-ending threats that my intentions are to like try and force through their counters. And then I also have the 4th Counterflux and 2 additional Dispels to help force through those threats. The other package would be like the anti-aggro package, and that consists of 2 Muggings, 1 Dramatic Rescue, and 2 Aetherize. Those are essentially just to buy time and remove small attackers. And then there are 3 Boros Reckoners on the board as well. Those are just kind of a surprise against decks that might board out a lot of the removal after they see that I don't have any creatures to kill in game 1. And they're great against green-white decks in particular. They're great for blocking Voices of Resurgence and Blockstone Spiders. The best matchup for this deck is mono-red, mostly because all of their cards do the same thing, which is attack you, and nearly all of my cards do the same thing, which is kill the creatures that are attacking you. The only cards in my deck that don't do that draw cards and gain life and maintain control of the game. This deck's worst matchup, I would think, would be the junk decks. Voice of Resurgence is a pretty difficult card to deal with. So many of your answers, you play at instant speed. In addition to Voice of Resurgence, they also have access to Sin Collector, which is a huge problem as well. If someone were looking for a block deck to play in, say, like a block Grand Prix or something, I would definitely recommend this deck. I think it plays the most powerful cards in the format, in Sphinx's Revelation and Aetherling and Jace, Architect of Thought. And amongst the other decks that play those cards, I think it has the best all-around game and is the most resilient to mono-red, green-white, and other aggro decks.